April the 22nd of 2018, my wife and I were in our fifth wheel and truck. We got stuck in the off the side of the road with our fifth wheel and truck. We called Good Sam Roadside Assistance for help to send out somebody that could help us out of our situation. They dispatched a tow truck after being an undersized piece of equipment, after being told that the size of our vehicle, both the fifth wheel and the truck. The first provider tried to get us pulled out. He was under-equipped. We ended up in a worse situation, and our truck and rig got damaged. The next morning, Good Sam told us that we were done. We had one shot at it, and it was our fault for getting stuck a second time. Okay, well, on April the 22nd of 2018, earlier this year, my wife and I, we were full-time RVers. I had just retired, and we were on our way to on our journey across the country, and we stopped at 7 Points Campground near Nashville, Tennessee, to spend the night in our fifth wheel. We had a reservation for the park, and when we arrived, it was probably 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We checked in at the gate, drove to our site, proceeded to try to back into our site, and the roads were really narrow, and I got off the road and actually ended up getting stuck. The site was plenty long enough. It was just the roads were narrow, and I needed to, and I ended up getting stuck. I'm kind of cutting out how many times I got stuck, but once I could not maneuver the truck fifth wheel any longer, we have Good Sam Roadside Assistance. Actually, we have several things going with Good Sam. We're lifetime members of Good Sam, which helps with camping discounts and stuff like that. We buy our fifth wheel insurance through Good Sam Insurance Agency. We have our extended warranty plan through Good Sam. So we've been with Good Sam for about 10 years total. We called Good Sam Roadside Assistance and told them our predicament. They asked questions about our truck and fifth wheel, the sizes, the models, the weights. I remember specifically the guy asking, I told him what model we had, and it was a Cincinnati. That's our model, Mobile Suite Cincinnati. And he said he didn't have that one, but he listed several others, and I said, well, they're all similar in size. And all the ones he listed were actually the same length and same weight as our rig, which is 23,000 pounds. We're over 44 feet long. And our truck is a 2017 Ford F-350 dually pickup. After we were talking to the dispatcher with Good Sam, while we were talking to them, a fellow at the park or the campground came up, and he actually works for the Army Corps of Engineers as a volunteer. And he asked if he could get on the phone and speak with the dispatch people, which I let him do. And he told them that we needed a big truck because we have a fifth wheel that's over 40 foot and a big truck and so on and so forth. He actually used to be a wrecker. He used to drive a wrecker, so he knows exactly what it is that was going to be required. So anyway, we waited a while, I don't know, maybe an hour, and finally we got a call back from Good Sam saying that they had found somebody to come and help us out of our situation, and they were going to be calling us to let us know when they were going to arrive. And shortly thereafter, we did get a call from the provider that Good Sam had contracted with to come out and get us out of our situation. The Army Corps guy actually got on the phone again with the provider and told him that make sure you bring a big truck, because this is a big long fifth wheel and a big truck, and you're going to need a boom, and you're going to need a winch, because you're going to have to you're going to have to move him sideways. Provider, he jumped in his tow truck and he showed up at the campground, came around to our location, under the guidance of the Army Corps engineer, and the provider actually admitted to the Army Corps volunteer that he didn't think he was going to be able to get us out because he was not equipped, but he was going to try it anyway. We were partially, I was just looking at some pictures that we took a little earlier, and we had, our fifth wheel has, is a triaxle, so it has 3 sets of axles and obviously a tire on each side. So we have 3 tires on one side and 3 on the other. The 3 tires on the passenger side, if you will, were in the grassy, muddy kind of an area. The tires on the driver's side of the vehicle, of the truck, were on kind of a, not grassy and not mud, but maybe like a shoulder of the site, of a campsite that was actually across the street from our campsite. At any rate, and my truck was partially on some shoulder material, and it was also in mud and grass, to where we have a 4-wheel drive truck. I could no longer back the trailer up with my truck, and that's why we ended up calling Good Sam in the first place. Anyway, the provider shows up, and he sets up and proceeds to pull us back fairly easily with his little truck, with his winch, and he pulled us as far as he could. He had to stop because on the other side of the road is a deep ditch. So, you can't pull into the ditch on the other side of the road. So at that point, he resituates his truck, relocates it, and hooks back onto the end of my trailer, and he attempts to drag, not lift, but drag my 23,000-pound fifth wheel with 6 tires crossways across the asphalt. Not with the rolling of the tires, but against the tread of the tires. It was rainy and wet, and he felt like maybe it would be able to slide. Well, his truck had not nearly enough power. I mean, his truck was no bigger than ours. His winch was not strong enough to do that. And you're going to have a major truck to be able to do that. At any rate, we're still sitting there. We can't go backwards any further. We can't go forwards any further. And so we made the decision between me and the provider and the Army Corps volunteer to try to maneuver between the provider pulling us and me driving forward and kind of jockeying back and forth to try and get us in a position to where we could be straightened out a little more and get on some better ground, some better pavement. That was an absolute disaster. We ended up getting stuck even worse than we were originally. And in the process, the nose of my fifth wheel trailer and the bed rail, the driver's side bed rail of my truck met, and both lost in the collision. Or it wasn't a collision, so to speak. They just smashed each other. So now I've got dents in the bed rail of my brand new truck, and I have crushed fiberglass on the nose of my fifth wheel. At this point, the provider decided he was done and he left. He didn't give us any paperwork to sign. He didn't, he just left. He did tell me, though, you're going to have to get a heavy hauler. I do remember that. You're going to have to get a heavy hauler, which is what Good Sam was told. They were going to need to get a heavy truck, a big truck, out to pull us out. So we called Good Sam back and told him what the provider had told us. That's right. Good Sam said they would call us back in a few minutes. They were going to verify the situation and then call us back. So they called the provider that they had sent out, got his version of the story, called us back and said, well, he already said he got you out and you drove back into the mess and got yourself stuck, and you're basically on your own. We are not going to help you any further. At that point, we ended up contacting another company to come out, but they weren't going to be able to come out till the next morning. So my wife and I spent the night in pretty chilly weather in our pickup truck, because the fifth wheel was in a precarious kind of a situation. It was tilting a little bit, and we didn't feel it was safe for us to get into it. Plus, it was still attached to the truck, and it wasn't a good situation. So the next morning, the heavy hauler tow truck shows up, and this truck comes equipped with not only a winch, but a boom, which we were stuck worse than we were originally. He set up and he pulled us back, which that took a lot of effort because we were in a worse position. He got us backed up to where we were originally with the first provider, and then he relocated, much like the first provider did, only this time, this company had the boom. He hooked up to the receiver hitch of my fifth wheel and lifted the trailer up off the ground a few inches so that he could pull it with his winch at the same time over to the side about 6 feet, 5 to 6 feet. He got it pulled over, which lined us up with the campsite that we were originally supposed to be in. He put us down, unhooked, relocated yet again, hooked up with his winch, and told me to steer my truck as he pulled the rig and the truck out together and get us into a more straightened out situation, which he did that. I steered, and he got us all the way back into our campsite that we were supposed to have been in. He unhooked, and I was able to drive out. Our contention is with our beef with Good Sam is that they sent out an under-equipped truck. The provider, when he showed up, should have recognized the situation, which I think he did. He just felt like he needed to collect the money. And he never put us in a position of being able to proceed safely. Good Sam's wording in their brochure says that for each disablement event under this agreement, the member is entitled to 2 hours of either towing preparation or recovery services. Recovery is what we had, includes winch out or extrication services to allow the vehicle to proceed safely under its own power. They also make claims that their employees and their dispatchers are trained specifically to answer questions and take care of situations like this. They were told the size of our rig and the situation that we were in, and they neglected to send out the proper equipment. Had the proper equipment been sent out in the first place, none of this would be happening. I wouldn't be having a YouTube or a PIST consumer interview. We wouldn't have any damage to our truck. We wouldn't have any damage to our rig. And I wouldn't be out $850 to the company that was actually able to pull us out, which, by the way, they were able to do without further damage to our truck and fifth wheel. So again, I go back to, had the correct equipment been sent out in the first place, we would not be in the situation we're in. We filed a claim with Good Sam. It took them a week. They did not interview anybody. When we filed our claim, we sent a lot of information, pictures, our story, the names of people that were witnesses to the event. They did not investigate. They didn't contact anybody. They looked at it and said, we're not paying, and called us back and told us, well, after all, it was your fault for getting stuck in the first place, which we were not very happy about.